Well, systems changes are really reflections of really what's going on in people, ultimately, because systems are living their policies through people. And if the people haven't fundamentally changed, you're putting unchanged people into a new system, which will then reflect where people are actually at. So the fundamental challenges with systems change are actually people change. Well, I think it of course had a great opportunity because it was starting from scratch, in a way. But the people that were brought in for leadership had never done this before. And I think that was a big problem right from the outset. There was really nobody that had been part of a big building something from scratch or transforming it in the context of a governmental thing. In fact, the leaders were pulled in from roles that were much more minor in that sense, running a small community agency or something like that. And so in this sense, the operationalization was very weak, even though the direction was quite good. And it wasn't for lack of trying, but it would have been better if there had been more depth in terms of people that had sort of had earned their stripes, so to speak, So that was one issue. The second one is the fatal kind of mistake was made very early on, which was that the excitement of creating something new that it kind of had arisen from the community in so many ways, put government itself on guard against it. It was seen, CLBC was seen as captured by the advocates, and and of course, what did government do? Government kind of replaced all the advocates with people that government people feel comfortable with, technocrats and things like that. So in a sense, it would have been better to have had a better relationship with the bigger part of government, the deeper part of government than existed, but where they would trust CLBC to be well balanced, involving the community, but also involving government itself, so that government's concerns aren't neglected. But I think early on, people were so excited, they weren't worrying about government, they were worrying about not worrying about it, they were just excited about some of the vision for it. Third thing, I think, was the timelines. To build something that's going to endure, you must have a very good foundation, and you need to build it properly. And again, what was being built? And what ended up getting built was a new bureaucracy that is, in a sense, all that has survived. So a values-based bureaucracy, carefully built, would mean a kind of ethos that is so much in the foundation of it, it can't be gotten rid of all that easily. And there was just an underestimation of the need for values in the shaping of it. And so consequently, there's a lot of decisions have been made subsequently that are not the values you would want to guide things. And so I think most of this is traceable to naivete and underestimation of how you entrench values in a new organization. The scale's, of course, also a big issue because it's a sizable organization. Whereas if you did it with a small community organization, it would be far less complicated, much easier. So the scale of doing that, particularly as it got bigger, things got worse. Yeah, well, I've been watching the whole NDIS thing develop, but see, I go back to 1987 in Australia, so I have the historical context more than many people might. And I think one of the things is to remember this is a very big scheme. It will be, even though you've set dates for when things are going to happen, it doesn't mean actually that it's going to happen. So, they'll say by 2020 the scheme will be operational, but what they mean by it'll be operational at the earliest possible stage of development. And so I think people are underestimating how long it's going to take to fulfill that promise. I mean, what they're really saying is it will be out of the starting gate. That's it, cross the starting line in many ways, with everybody in the scheme, but to get all of the pieces of that working well, there's going to be a fair bit of revision of things. And that's not a bad thing, because they really ought, and we'll find that some things weren't thought through very well, and they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. And if they are okay with that, then they actually could evolve and learn from some of the things that didn't work, and nobody knows whether it will. I mean, you can't insulate a complicated national organization like that from all of the kind of vested interests that are going to be at work and agendas. And so what they have at the moment now are large ambitions and goals. They don't really have an operational track record that fits the goals. And of course, you think of CLBC had quite promising goals, but it had a lot of trouble operationalizing it. And NDIS is vastly bigger than CLBC. And they're going to also have duty of care. And so when people start dying in the community because they were neglected, and it's in the press, and the idea that that everything, you won't have all kinds of tragedies and misfortunes and so on, because that's just what governments have to deal with, is the fact that somebody somewhere dropped the ball. And you can't guarantee from Canberra what's going to happen in the Kimberley or, in some small town in Queensland and so on. So all that remains to be seen. But what we do know is all that sort of is happening now at the state level, which is much smaller, much more manageable in some ways. And even there, they're finding it very difficult to live up to their values and promises. So I think the thing to be cautious about is the operational realities of trying to put that into place one person at a time. It's great when you can state what your goals are, but it's a generation to debug the whole thing and get it out there and whatnot. And I don't hear too many people talking like that. I think there's a bit of a front-end excitement about things, not too much doubting that we'll live up to it all.